بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. So now we're basically standardizing 40 minutes before Isha. It used to be 30, now we've standardized it to be 40. So I think 40 is reasonable. Allahumma musta'an. There's only 13, 14 minutes left. I'll start 40 minutes inshallah ta'ala before Isha. People are here, I'm here, might as well. Maybe that way we can get through a few more verses, and we can talk about a few more. I want to do ayah number 78 of Surah Al-Hajj, actually the first one there.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده هو اجتباكم وما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل وفي هذا ليكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس فأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واعتصموا بالله هو مولاكم فنعم المولى ونعم النصير.
So as I explained yesterday, and we spent a little bit of time talking about the themes of the surahs that we're covering, and we talked about Surah Al-Hajj. Surah Al-Hajj, as a part of this cluster from Al-Isra to An-Naml, which is the largest and the longest cluster in the Quran by far, talks about the fact that carrying this message, because this cluster talks about carrying the message, meaning, when the carrying the message means, as in when you take Islam, you're not only just adhering to the rules yourself, but you're carrying the message to others, and you're spreading that to others, and you are acting as a guardian to what the message is. So you're protecting the message, you're making sure you're taking it to others, you're performing da'wah, and so carrying the message is also the benefit that people are going to get out of it. So that's what this means. And these surahs just talk about what's going to be needed, the requirements for that to work, and some of the challenges. And Surah Al-Hajj tells us basically that carrying the message is a journey. It's not an action. And this journey is going to have ups and downs and difficulties, and going to require flexibility, is going to require perseverance, require some degree of striving in order for us to actually achieve what we hope to do. And in that sense, Hajj is a very appropriate name for the surah, because that's what Hajj is. Hajj is a pilgrimage, which is a journey. Yeah, that's what actually it is. You're supposed to go to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls upon you, and your answer is labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Oh Allah, I am on my way. I'm coming to you. Labbaik Allahu labbaik la sharika labbaik. You call me and I respond and I come to you. And I'm on my way. This is what it means. So Hajj is a journey in of its own, and it's symbolizing the journey of carrying this message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us. This message that we're not the first or last. We're not the first people to carry it, but we are the last people who will be carrying it in terms of a nation. And in this ayah, at the end of Surah Al-Hajj, it's the final one, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, and strive for Allah the way Allah deserves to be striven for. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deserve to be strived for? Strive for Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means there is no limit to how much you need to strive. That's what jihad means. Jihad means you're going to push yourself. You're going to identify difficulties, you're going to strive against them. You're going to continue to move forward. هُوَ جَتَبَاكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ. I love this verse. It's one of the most beautiful verses in the Quran. وَجَتَبَاكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He chose you for this. He chose you for this mission. And He did not make upon you within your deen difficulty. He did not make your deen difficult. He didn't put restrictions upon you in Islam. So the next time you think about Islam, and if something comes to mind as a restriction, it's not. That's just the perception of your nafs. Your nafs sees everything that is not whatever it wants as a restriction. If the nafs is not getting everything that it wants at all times, that's a restriction. It's like a child. Unless you're going to let your child do anything they want, at any time they want it, then for them, you're restricting them and you're becoming a disciplinary. And that's okay. That's okay. Because that's their perception. They're children. They don't understand. Your nafs is still a child on the inside. It will see every restriction every rule as a restriction. But you and I should have the intellect to identify that's not it. That's not it. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He did not make this faith and this religion and this law for you difficult. مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. It is the way of your father Ibrahim alayhi salam. هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَفِي هَذَا. He is the one who called you Muslims back many moons ago when He was around, and in the Quran, وَفِي هَذَا. لِيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْكُمْ. For the Prophet Muhammad to be an example for you. The standard, the golden standard that you hold yourself to, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's what he serves for us. Whenever we want to see if we're doing well, we compare ourselves to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you see? Are we like him? Are we acting like him, speaking like him, thinking like him, behaving like him? No, that we need to hold ourselves to that standard. لِيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْكُمْ وَتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. And for you to be examples for others. Because if you're going to take the Prophet alayhi salatu as your example, you live up to that example, you'll become example for other people as well. فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. To establish your prayers appropriately. And وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, right? I'm not forgetting the ayah. And whenever he puts إِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ and إِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ together, he's basically summarized all of the rulings of Islam. Because these are symbols. إِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ is the symbol of the acts of worship that are between you and God. And إِيتَاءُ الزَّكَاةِ is the symbol of the acts of worship that help other people. And in Islam, there are only two types of acts of worship. Either something that is between you and Allah, like reading the Quran and fasting and giving, and doing tasbih and wird and dhikr and hizb and praying. These are just things that is between you and Allah. And then there are acts of worship like إغاثة الملهوف and بر الوالدين and صلة الرحم and sadaqat. These help other people. So the Quran, أقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة, these are symbols of the acts of worship that fall under that umbrella. He's not saying just those two things matter. It's like, where's Sum Ramadan and Hajj al-Bayt? No. These are, Hajj is also is under the umbrella of Aqimus Salah because it's something between you and God. فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Perform all the acts of worship that you were commanded to perform. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ هُوَ مَوْلَاكُمْ. And hold on to your Lord and His word. He is your protector. فَنِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ. The best Lord He is and the best protector He is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse at the end of Surah Al-Hajj is beautiful. It's just, it takes us, subhanAllah, it literally takes you on a journey. Strive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He deserves to be strived for. He chose you to begin with, and He did not make this faith difficult for you. This is the way of your father Ibrahim. He is the one who called you Muslims. Back when he was around, and He called you Muslims in the Quran as well. And the Prophet is there to be an example and the golden standard for you, and for you to turn into examples for others. So make sure you follow Allah's command and establish your prayer and give your zakah and hold on to the word of your Lord, because He is your protector. And what a great Lord He is, and what a great protector He is. And that's the end of Surah Al-Hajj, one of the most beautiful verses at the end of a surah that you can possibly imagine. Let's do ayah number 33 of Surah Al-Mu'minun.
وقال الملأ من قومه الذين كفروا وكذبوا بلقاء الآخرة وأترفناهم في الحياة الدنيا ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يأكل مما تأكلون منه ويشرب مما تشربون.
So the story of in Surah Al-Mu'minun tells you that the value is people. The value is not in buildings, the value is in people. So the beauty of this cluster from Isra to An-Naml is it just walks us down. You want to carry the message? Number one, know that you're carrying the beacon from now on. It's been given to you as an ummah. You're responsible for it, and the Quran is your way. Surah Al-Kahf, here are the four elements you need to build your society. Surah Maryam, family is the basic unit. It is the fundamental unit that through that Islam is going to continue. It's going to be inherited. You're going to give it from families are going to be built, and you're going to make sure Islam continues to go through families. Taha tells you that you carry this message, and it's not designed to make you miserable. This message is designed to give you fulfillment. Yes, it may be difficult, but it's designed to fulfill you in this dunya and in akhirah. Surah Al-Anbiya tells you here are your role models, the Anbiya. Surah Al-Hajj tells you it's a journey. So understand that there'll be ups and downs. You're required to be flexible. You need to be perseverant, and you need to strive for the sake of Allah. And Surah Al-Mu'minun says the value is human beings. The value is in people. Your investment needs to be in people. You have to spend time working and building people. That's what matters. Nothing else matters. Institutions don't matter. Buildings don't matter. Logos, none of this matters. What matters is people. Are you investing in? That's where the value is. Are you taking time to invest in people? And this is the problem that we have today, because the way we've digitalized everything, the world has shifted quite a bit. Now we care for quantity over quality. This is the argument I get on a daily basis from brothers and sisters who are very loving and have the great intention. Why don't we expand? Why don't we reach a larger audience? Why don't we? Because there's no point. Because there's no point. So 1 million people watched the video. So what? I know none of them. They don't know me. They're not going to benefit from anything. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. Wallahi, it is. How many videos have you seen throughout your life? How many inspirational videos have you seen? What have they done for you? How far have they moved you? It doesn't work. What works is quality. The Prophet ﷺ didn't reach millions of people himself. He reached millions of people through his investment in human beings. That's how he reached them. And that's how this has to happen. When we take quantity over quality, Islam doesn't work anymore. Yes, so you're reaching more people. So you have more views. So what? Wallahi, it doesn't mean anything. Wallahi, it's just a headache. Rather, forget about all that. Work locally. Focus on the people that you have in front of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plucked me out and put me here. And he did the same thing for... Oh, I actually threw that over there. I got rid of this and put it behind there. Thank you. I don't need it, but thank you. Jazakallah khair. You are here. You're living here. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you. Why think of helping someone who's living 1,000 or 5 million kilometers away? I'm not talking about someone who's starving, who requires your aid and money. No, of course you need to do that. But I'm saying when it comes to building this, carrying this message and building, why are you thinking about someone who lives in a completely different context? When there are people who need you right there. Right? In Syrian Syrian proverb, Mazaribu labarra, meaning he's always looking to help someone else. He can't take care of his own family. He's focused on something. No, the Prophet ﷺ focused on those who were in front of him, just like we need to do. And the moment he failed, the moment, and we'll talk about this at the end of the month, the moment, even for a split second, he didn't think of the person who was standing in front of him. Abasa wa tawalla, he was told. No, you focus on the person in front of you. Where are you living? Are you living here in London? Focus here. Are there no brothers and sisters who could benefit from you? Are you not able to carry this message to them? Are you not able to carry this message from them? Invest in them. This is what this is about. This is what Muhammad tells us. They're right in front of you. Don't lose it. Don't focus on something way beyond. That's what Surah Al-Mu'minun tells us. The value is human beings. And Surah An-Nur tells us that carrying this message is what will hold on to society. What is going to protect communities? Surah An-Nur is very valuable. It's a very important surah. It talks about protecting communities and societies from the darkness that is lingering around it all the time. It's called Nur. It's called light or enlightenment. And it tells us you want to protect your society, you need the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. And the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes through following and learning what He taught. And that's what Surah An-Nur's theme is. And it's obvious if you just read the first couple of pages of it, it kind of makes a lot of sense. So the ayah I talked about, that the brother read, وَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ, it was within Surah Al-Mu'minun where he's talking about the story of all prophets. So the first story in Surah Al-Mu'minun is the story of Nuh, and then after that, he starts a story of a prophet. He does not name the prophet. فَأَرْسَلْنَا فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. Who is it? Scholars scholars of tafsir have suggested every single prophet for this. For every prophet, there's some scholar who thought it was him. For every one of them, all of them. And what I believe it is it's just a generic story that works for any prophet, which is backed up by the evidence of every scholar thought it was someone different. Meaning this happened to everyone. It's the same story being repeated time and time again. What is it? وَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ وَكَذَّبُوا بِلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ. And the people from the noble people, or the strong people, or the wealthy people from the village or city of the prophet, those who disbelieved, those who refused to accept resurrection and accountability. And then he says one more thing that they did, which is the point of me telling you this verse. وَأَتْرَفْنَاهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. And we granted them more wealth than they would ever need in this dunya, which is one of the biggest problems. Once the human being has more than they need, they tend to stop taking certain things seriously. We tend to become a bit arrogant when we have more than what we need. We tend to start speaking in a different accent, different attitude. When we're full, when we have everything we want, we change a little bit. It's only when a human being is weak and scared and alone that he starts speaking with the correct, with the correct words and the correct attitude and the correct perspective. It's at the moment when you identify how in need you are that you start thinking and speaking appropriately. When we have too much and we don't learn and we don't have the proper tazkiyah and we weren't educated appropriately, it goes to our heads. وَأَتْرَفْنَاهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. This generic story tells us that all those who refused to believe in their prophets once they were sent to them, they had a few problems. Yes, they didn't believe and they refused the truth of what was coming to them in terms of resurrection. But their main issue was وَأَتْرَفْنَاهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They had too much. So because they had too much, they saw everything through a lens of materialism. Everything was based on numbers, on wealth. So what did they tell their prophets? مَا هَذَا إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. This prophet is just a man like you. يَأْكُلُ مِمَّا تَأْكُلُونَ مِنْهُ وَيَشْرَبُ مِمَّا تَشْرَبُونَ. He eats like you, he drinks like you. You're going to listen. وَلَئِنْ أَطَعْتُمْ بَشَرًا مِثْلَكُمْ إِنَّكُمْ إِذًا لَخَاسِرُونَ. If you listen to a man, just another person like you, then you're definitely going to be in a state of loss. أَيَعِدُكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ إِذَا مِتُّمْ وَكُنْتُمْ تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَنَّكُمْ مُخْرَجُونَ. He's telling you that once you die, you're going to be resurrected again. هَيْهَاتَ هَيْهَاتَ لِمَا تُوعَدُونَ. How far away this promise that he offers you actually is. At the end of that story, he says, قَالَ عَمَّا قَلِيلٍ لَيُصْبِحُنَّ نَادِمِينَ. Very soon they'll regret all that they said. Very soon they will regret this approach that they had. Just give them time. Let's give them time. The problem of taraf is when you have way more than you need. And when you indulge in that, you indulge in materialism and you allow yourself to be possessed by your own possessions. And you raise your children that way, and all that matters is money. And all that you can only value things numerically. Everything has to be tangibly calculable. It has to have a number beside it, or else it's not worth anything. The truth of this world and the truth of life could not be farther away from that. And it hurts me to know that some Muslims can't even see it. I've lost the ability to see that that's the reality of the world. I'll end with that, inshallah. Let's do 114 of Surah Al-Mu'minun, just in case we don't get to it. It's important.
قال إن لبثتم إلا قليلا لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون.
At the end of this beautiful surah, Surah Al-Mu'minun, the value is the human being. At the end of it, we have this very intense review of certain moments of the Day of Judgment. And during this image of what's happening on the Day of Judgment, there's a conversation that occurs between people who are standing there. And the question goes like this: قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ عَدَدَ سِنِينَ. They start saying, how many years did we live on earth? Like back when we were on earth, how long did we live there? Now, granted, Yawm al-Qiyamah can be as short as 2 rak'ah, but can be as long as 50,000 years. Let's say these gentlemen who are having this conversation were on the longer side of things, and they were there for a couple of thousand years. Do you even understand how does your memory actually function if you lived 1,000 years? At the end of 70, and someone asks you how long did you live, what do you remember? How many snapshots of your past do you remember? 15, 20? A couple of moments in your life, and that's when you're 70. If you lived 1,070 years, what do you remember from everything that happened? How do you recall those early 70 years? Let's say someone's standing on the Day of Judgment has been standing there for 3,000 years. He lived for 70 years. That's how long he lived. 80 years. Let's say he lived for 80 years. And you asked him, he's been around for 3,080 years. That's how long he's been around for. If you ask him about those initial 80 years, what do you think he remembers from them? At that point, what does that person remember of those initial 80 years? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. If we're around for 70, we can barely remember what happened. Imagine if you're living in the thousands of years. So they're asking this question. It's not mockery. It's not silliness. It's real. This is literally their perception. We sometimes read these verses and we think that people are making fun. No. They're not acting stupid. This is actually how they're perceiving things. They're saying, how long were you actually around for? If you traveled at some point, if you're someone in their 60s or 70s, and if you traveled at some point to another country and spent some time there, will you not make a mistake in estimating how long you spent there? Will you not make? Of course you'll make you'll say, I was there for 3 years, and then your wife will be like, you were there for 10 months. And then you'll fight and argue, and you'll turn out wrong because she has a better memory than you do, and you just thought you were longer than or you think it's much shorter than it was. It's hard to remember. These durations are impossible to remember. So they're asking, كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ عَدَدَ سِنِينَ. How many years what are the number of years we spent on earth? So the answer, the serious answer, قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ. We lived maybe a day or half a day, I think it was. فَاسْأَلِ الْعَادِينَ. Ask the historians. Look for a historian, someone who studied history, and ask them, how long was it? How long was the time that we spent on earth? Yeah, of course. After 3,000 years or 4,000 years or 10,000 years of standing on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the first 80 don't even register anymore. You don't even recall living them to begin with. فَاسْأَلِ الْعَادِينَ. And then an answer will be generated into the sky. It's an answer that they will echo into the air around them. قَالَ. This is what they'll hear. إِلَّا بِثْتُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Indeed, you were only there for such a short period of time. لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون. Only if you knew that then. One of the scariest verses in the Quran. Honestly, one of the scariest ayat in the whole Quran. لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون. If you only knew this back then. What a loss. If you only knew this then, it would have fixed your problems. Yes, indeed. You're saying you only lived there for a day or two? No, it was way more than that. But you're right. You're right about one thing. You're right about the fact that it was very short. You're not right about the actual duration. It was 70 years. But you're correct. It was a very short period of time. Only if you only knew that back then. If at the time when you were in it, you just recognize that it's a very short period of time. لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون. But you didn't back then. Back then, the 70 years seemed forever. See, I have time. I'll improve later. I'll learn the Quran later. I'll perfect my prayer later. I'll become a better Muslim later. I'll start caring about things that matter later. I'll do it all. I have time. You have time? You have time. يوما أو بعض يوم. In Surah Taha, نحن أعلم بما يقولون. We know exactly what they're saying amongst each other as they're discussing this issue. They're discussing how long we live. This becomes a discussion Yawm al-Qiyamah. They start wondering, no, honestly, how long were we there for? And they start arguing. I think it was a day. No, I think it was an afternoon. They're like, no, it was, I think, no. So they're arguing. So Allah says, we know what they're saying. إِذْ يَقُولُ أَمْثَلُهُمْ طَرِيقَةً إِن لَبِثْتُمْ إِلَّا عَشْرًا. The ones who give like the biggest estimation, the ones who there's always someone crazy in the group who's going to give like an unreasonable prediction of something. There's always a guy like that. Like someone who everyone's making a prediction, this person is going to go completely out of what is normal. So the one who's going to go as far out is to say, we were there for 10 days. For 10 days. You're correct. Not with the number. This is the ayah saying. You're correct. Not the number's wrong. You're correct by the concept. Indeed, it was a very short period of time. You just didn't know it then. Only if you knew it back then. لو أنكم. It's almost like you can hear in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's almost like, why didn't you know it then? Why couldn't you figure this out then? Why couldn't you take a moment to figure out then that it was so short, that it's not worth wasting, that there isn't enough time to do anything? You barely have enough time. Just focus. You have time. You'll relax later. Focus now, because it's short. It's short. It's not long. We're not here for a long time. And you just feel that hasra. You just feel that regret, that remorse, that pain in the answer. Not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in pain, but it's almost like the ayah is filled with the pain of all of the hearts that are standing there on the day of judgment, regretting the fact that they didn't use that short period of time appropriately. لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون. All right. Let's do ayah 12 of Surah An-Nur.
لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وقالوا هذا إفك مبين.
Surah An-Nur, that will tell us carrying this message is what will protect our societies. This message that we carry is what's going to protect our communities. And it does that by telling us a number of different stories and focusing on a number of different aspects of behaviors that occurred during the Prophet ﷺ's time. And the surah begins with talking about وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ zina, the concept of adultery and fornication, and how it's haram, and how there are punishments for it when it's done publicly, and when it's done in a place where people can see it. It's going to, when it's publicized and normalized, it's punished, and it's punishable within Islamic law, because that's how you protect a society. Societies that normalize haram are societies that have no light. You will find no enlightenment, a society that normalizes that which is haram. When you turn the page in Surah An-Nur, you come by this ayah that tells us that in the midst of the story of Hadith al-Ifk, the time where the great lie occurred. When Aisha radiallahu anha was late behind an army because she got lost, and a gentleman whose job was to stay behind the armies and help pick up anything that was missed or lost or fell off, over if people were lost to help them back, Safwan al-Mu'attal radiallahu anhu, he did exactly that, and he helped Aisha back, and that was the end of the story. As simple as that. She arrived home. She had sat in the sun for so long that she had a bit of a stroke, a sunstroke, so she went and she was sick for a couple of days. In the midst of all that, Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul and his posse decided that they were going to start spreading rumors. So they spread rumors about Aisha radiallahu anha and Safwan. And they start saying horrific things about them. And they start speaking. Again, so we're going to talk about behaviors that you need to do, behaviors you need to remove in order for this society to stay enlightened. And that this message requires these ethics. Carrying the message of Islam without the proper ethics goes nowhere. You claim to be someone who wants to carry Islam. Okay, do you, in any form or manner, participate in ghiba or namima? If the answer is yes, then you're going nowhere with your message. Your message is not worth anything. Because there are certain behaviors that if you do not stay away from, carrying the message will not go anywhere. And the message that you're carrying is not going to bring enlightenment. It has been darkened by the horrificness of these practices that you're engaging in. It's a very important concept. Well, it's very scary. And all of the practices that Surah An-Nur talks about are very important. But this one by far is outweighs all of them. Speaking of the honor of another person, speaking about someone behind their back and actually accusing them of fahisha. And Aisha alayhi salam didn't know any of it. And she wasn't a part of it. She did nothing wrong, neither did Safwan. But then the rumor spread and spread and spread. And amongst those who participated in spreading the rumors were some of the Muslims. Some of them were good people. Some of them were from Ahl Badr. Some of them were from Ahl Badr who made the mistake and said something. The Sahaba were human. They made mistakes. And the difference is that they learned. The difference is once the Quran said, never ever allow yourself to speak ill of someone else again, they never did it again. It was the end of it. They held their tongues and they looked away and they lowered their gaze and they shied out. But in these verses, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, because you need to make sure that you recite the second and third page of Surah An-Nur, like at some point in your life in real depth. Like you need to just take a weekend off and just read those, because they're very important. They're extremely profound. In the midst of these verses, he says subhanahu wa ta'ala, lawla. Lawla means what you should have done. That's what, it's one word in Arabic that it means it's a sentence in English. What you should have done. Lawla, إِذْ سَمِعْتُمُوهُ, when you heard people speaking of this rumor. ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا. What should have happened was that the believers, male and female, should have had good assumptions. In Aisha and Safwan? No, in themselves. They should have had good assumptions of themselves. Subhanallah. Now, when you listen to the verse, you would think that, no, it should be about the people who are being accused. I should have good assumptions about the people who are being accused. Someone saying that Fulan and Fulana performed a fahisha, I should have good assumptions in them. I shouldn't, no. You should have good assumptions in yourself. Because what you think of others is merely a reflection of what you think of yourself. What we think of other people is just a reflection of what we think of ourselves. So when we hear a story and we think, oh yeah, most likely Fulan performed fahish, it's because you're thinking if I was in that position, I would have done it. That's why. That's all it is. Please don't feel bad of what people think of you. People don't think of you. Huh? People don't think of you at all. Everyone is very preoccupied with themselves. I can tell you that. People don't think of you. But if they do take a moment to say something about you, don't feel bad, because whatever they're saying is just a reflection of what they carry on the inside. It's what they think of themselves. It has nothing to do, wallahi, it has nothing to do with you at all. It has everything to do with themselves, what they think of themselves and what they think of others and how they perceive the world. It's not personal about you. But when you have assumptions in people, it's also the same thing. You're just projecting, you're mirroring your assumptions of yourself. This is what the ayah is saying. ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا. They had good assumptions on themselves. وَقَالُوا هَذَا إِفْكٌ مُبِينٌ. And said, this is clear lie. But here's my question to you. Did they know it was a lie? Like for sure, did they know it was a lie? Could they swear by it? Were they with Aisha from the time she got lost to the time she went to Medina? The answer is no. Well, then how are they going to say, ifkum mubin? How do they say, this is a completely, because that's what you do regardless. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't, whether it happened or not, means nothing. It doesn't change the equation at all. You hear it, when hearsay comes to your ear, you deny it, you refuse it, you send it back, and you say it's a lie. Even if there's a part of you that believes it's true, it doesn't make a difference. Did you witness it? Was it witnessed properly? Is it proven? No, then as far as it's not, then we continue to say that it didn't happen, and we refuse to accuse people of things. This is the khuluq, this is the ethics of Islam. This is how we perform, this is how we function as Muslims. Of course, Aisha did not do it, neither did Safwan al-Mu'attal, but that wouldn't have changed anything, because that's not how we behave. And I'll give you the example, because Abu Ayyub and Ayyub are the beautiful example of this story, because they're the ones who behave, perfectly. They're talking, they're saying, Abu Ayyub was saying to Ayyub, you hear what people are saying? He said, yeah, I did. So Abu Ayyub was like, what do you think? فقالت حاشا لله, never. She would never do it. And he would say, what about Safwan? What do you think of the other one? So she asks him, would you have done it? I love Ayyub, radiallahu anha. He cornered him with simple logic. Said, would you have done it? He said, no, I wouldn't have done it. فقالت صفوان خير منك. Safwan is better than you, so he wouldn't have done it either. And that's exactly how you look at things. As simple as that. In another narration, he would go back and say, well, he would want to get her back, radiallahu anhu. So he would say, well, do you think Aisha would have done? No. Well, Aisha is better than you. If you didn't, he would go back and try and turn it around, but it didn't work out. But this is the way you think about it. When you hear a rumor about someone, why are you going to assume the worst? You're assuming the worst based on a disease in your own heart. Assume the best. You have any evidence? No. Why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? Why do you care if this happened or it didn't? Why would you like a fahisha to actually have occurred? Why would you like a fahisha to be proven? Why would you like a fahisha to be talked about? A Muslim doesn't. A Muslim craves sitr, craves hiding away these mistakes, not exposing people's flaws, not exposing their sins, not normalizing haram in a society. That's what Muslims crave. We love it. We live for this. So when this happens, we hold our tongues and we refuse to speak of it, and we have the best assumptions of people, and we refuse to assume bad things in them, because this is the ethics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us. It's very important. This ayah is very powerful in the Quran. Continue reading the rest of them. The rest of these ayahs in Surah An-Nur are very specific and very accurate, as they tell us. Yeah, I want to do one more ayah, so I'm going to leave it. But as you listen to them today and listen to read the translation, listen to them. Listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about this. He's going to say at one point in the midst of these verses, وَتَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمًا. And you thought it was simple to say something like this. So we're just talking. We're just talking. It's just a conversation. Yeah, maybe they did something. You thought it was simple to say something like that. It's not. It's not simple. عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمًا. In the eyes of Allah, this is horrendous. How could you allow your tongue to say something like that? And you know that because if you were the target of that type of talk and gossip, you wouldn't be happy. If you're going by your way and there's someone somewhere speaking about your honor and your dignity and speaking about you and about how you behave, and maybe you did this and it looks like you do that, and it hurts you. Oh my God, it's pain that is almost undescribable. To be treated the way you would want to be treated if you were the target of it. And I'll end with that, inshallah, just because we're running out of time. Let's do ayah number 30 of Surah An-Nur. 30, can we do 30?
قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم إن الله خبير بما يصنعون.
Okay. Inshallah ta'ala. So I'll just I'll talk about this verse and I'll make an announcement, inshallah. So this ayah in Surah An-Nur is extremely, extremely important. This one, 30 and 31, together, you'll find them in the surah. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Tell the believers. يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. You want to protect the community. You want the community to be enlightened. You want to be able to carry this message appropriately. Then you need to listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say. Now, linguistically, this is what the verse actually means, just to understand. The verse means the following, linguistically, from a grammaric perspective. Tell the believers, and if you tell them, they will listen and perform the following. يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. So not tell the mu'mins to lower their gaze. No, it's tell the mu'mins, tell the believers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them of certain things, and they will submit and accept. And when they submit, what they will do is يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. They will lower their gaze and they will maintain their chastity. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. Tazkiyah is there. That's purer for them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu knows all that they are doing, and what they are cooking, what they are hoping for, and what they are imagining and thinking about. He knows all of it. And then the ayah after it, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. And then tell also the believers. Tell them the importance of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them, and if you tell them, then they will also follow and submit. يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. This is called جواب الطلب in Arabic. يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. They will also lower their gaze and maintain their chastity. But then for the ladies, there's a longer ayah, because it talks about an extra piece that they have to maintain. وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. And they will not show their adornments except that which is obvious of it, like their face and their hands. And they will take the scarves of their heads, and they will cover their necks and cover their bosoms. وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا لِبُعُولَتِهِنَّ. And they will only show their beauty to their husbands, or their fathers, or their brothers, or their sons, and it goes and it counts all of the maharim, all the men who are not allowed to marry these women, so they can sit and they can be as easy, as of ease as they want to be in that situation. This is what the Quran talks about. Before the Quran told women to wear hijab, it told men to lower your gaze. So before you get all upset and up in arms that ladies aren't wearing hijab, tell me about your gaze and how much you lower it. Tell me how much effort you're putting in on a daily basis to lower your gaze and not look at haram, whether on the street or on the screen that you carry in the palm of your hand. Tell me that first. And if you want to get up in arms about, I'm not saying hijab is fard, and that is clear, and that is never going to change, because that's how Islam is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nur very clearly explained, and I get this question a lot, that where is hijab? Hijab in Surah An-Nur. وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جِيُوبِهِنَّ. They take the scarf on their heads and they cover their neck and their bosoms. It's very clear, that's the linguistics. There's no other way to understand the verse from an Arabic perspective. But before he did that, before he talked about that piece, he talked about lowering gaze. And he talked about maintaining chastity for men first and then for women. Wallahi, when I tell young men to lower their gaze, they think it's a joke. They think I'm joking around with them. It's funny. Everyone laughs because, of course, we're not going to do that. Move on, Sheikh, to something more productive for your own sake. For the sake of your own, for the value of your time, Sheikh. Talk about something that there's hope that we'll listen to. Okay. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Tell the believers. The verse is not tell them that they should lower their gaze. No, that's not what the verse says. The verse says tell them. If they're true believers, then they will lower their gaze. This is what the ayah means, wallahi. Ya Sheikh, is it not jawab al-talab? قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا. Not يَغُضُّونَ. It's majzoom because it's not saying tell them this. No, tell them. And if they're believers, then they will listen and they will lower their gaze. And they will, if you're a true believer, then you'll listen to this. And you will lower your gaze. And you will maintain your chastity. And you'll understand that's purer for you. And the ladies will do the same. And the ladies have one extra command where they need to cover. And because of an extra command, there's extra ajr. For every extra command in the deen, there's extra ajr. So yes, your test and your trial in life, when it comes to this aspect specifically, is a little bit more difficult than what men have to do. But you do get ajr for it. It's not for free. You're not doing this for free. You're not doing it and then on the day of judgment we get rewarded for chastity in the same way. No, you get rewarded for chastity more than we do. Because you had to cover your head, you have to put a hijab on, and you had to do things that we didn't have to do. So you get more ajr for it. But this is the commands of God. We don't change Islam because people don't like something anymore. This is Islam. We don't change it faith. This is what it is. Now, if you're not adhering to that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you. You shouldn't be judged. You shouldn't be mistreated. No one should look down on you because everyone has sinned, but it's still a part of the deen. All we can do is make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you the strength and the ability to adhere to it. Say Ameen. May Allah do that for our sisters because they're struggling. They stand every day. They're the frontliners of Muslims in the world. I can easily blend in and no one know that I'm a Muslim. Well, not anymore, but maybe when I was younger, you could do it. But for our sisters, no. They wear the hijab. They are the front line. They are the front line of Islam in this world, and that has to be acknowledged by us. As they continue, they carry Allah because we're minorities living in countries where they don't have the ability to hide who they are, and they have to come out, and that's beautiful. May Allah bless them. May Allah grant them the strength to do that and to carry the deen the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them to. Action for Humanity is a organization that we have supported from the day it came out. Sister Sarah, Rania Lawendi is a part of it, and we all know the Lawendi family, and may Allah bless her for everything she does. They're the only group that have offices in Palestine right now, and they're doing a lot of work with our brothers and sisters in the parts of Palestine that don't find the support that they need. And they're going to leave some of these pamphlets outside to pick up. And inshallah, if you have time, take a look at them and maybe offer some. This is a perfect time. There's no better time on the planet to give donations than now. Than doing it now, than giving, especially your brothers and sisters living parts of the world where they don't have the safety that you have, that you and I enjoy. They don't have the sustenance that you and I enjoy. So take a moment to look at it. And this is an organization that is, inshallah, very trustworthy. And they're doing a lot of great work, inshallah. So barakallah fikum, take a moment and do that. And I think the MAC, when is the MAC dinner? Tomorrow. The MAC iftar is inshallah tomorrow. So if you haven't, I don't think, are there any tickets left? I don't think there are any tickets left. If there are, please, regardless of whether there is or there aren't, continue to support the organization, institutions of our city. The moment the Muslim institutions aren't supported, then we all pay for that. So make sure that you go if you're able and you show them support that they require. And Taqwa is on the 14th. So we have, and then we have the Taqwa Iftar, which is on April 14th. And I think the tickets are also available for online for those who would like to purchase them and support them. They're a very important educational institution in the city, and we should try and support them as much as possible. Oh, all right. And finally, please again, I see bottled waters in your hand. Those are yours. Okay, that's yours now. Okay, Ahmed, you don't leave that here. You take that home with you. All right, we don't have enough garbage space. So take the water bottles that you have with you, because we're having a problem with the amount of water bottles that are staying here. So please take them with you. And you open them, drink them, just take them, throw them out somewhere else, inshallah. And please fill out the census. Use the QR code. Very important. I'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but please take time and fill out that census. And it's not per individual, it's per family. So just make sure someone in your family fills out that census and the survey, so that we can, inshallah, share the data and start planning, programming accordingly, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu feekum.
Allah.